Hey Dempsey, Kaylee Jean here with Falcons and Pentacles Tarot, as you know, and welcome to your personal video reading. I'm super excited to get into this reading for you today. So, when I do a reading for a client, I always like to meditate first. This is just so that I can sort of get rooted and grounded within my own energy. And then secondly, I like to sort of pay attention to see if any psychic messages want to come through. And in your case, I did get some messages. It was definitely a really powerful meditation. So I'm going to be checking my notes because I needed to write some things down so I didn't forget anything. And yeah, I'm just going to share these with you now. I always like to say, just take what works for you and then sort of leave the rest behind. Some of this stuff might make sense to you as I'm saying it. Some of it may not. Some of it could become more clear later. So just kind of keep an open mind, and then we'll get into your cards. So you had a lot of really intense messages coming through. As I was tuning into you, I felt just a lot of strength. And they were showing me the strength card, the strength tarot card, and they were also showing me the lion card in the animal spirit oracle. So both of those cards have lions on them. And they were just giving me like a very rooted sensation and a very like empowered kind of like being a leader almost energy. And when they showed me the lion card, they said thought leader. So I feel that is something that you are through your work. And I don't know if that's going to resonate with you, but I feel like there is something about like the way that you think about things that it's really important. Like it's really important for people to hear kind of like what you're saying, but also like how you're saying things and how not like what you're thinking, but also how you think about things. Like that is really important. Just right now for people, that was like the message that I was getting really strongly for you. It's like the method that you have. I'm getting chills because I almost feel like there's something about your method or something about like how methodical you can be in terms of assimilating an idea and then sort of processing it step by step and then communicating about it. There's something methodical in that process for you. There's kind of a strategy, and I don't know if it's a conscious strategy that you have in terms of like how you communicate things with your words or even through your work. But what the guides are making me feel like they're drawing attention to like the how more than the what, because the what is really important, but it's the how. It's like this something that you have like an ability to like assimilate or kind of analyze and then strategically kind of deconstruct and then repurpose or like express in a different way. I feel like you have that. You have like something that's going to connect with people because, and I don't say things like this normally in readings, but like this voice kind of came in while I was meditating, and they said that millions of people are going to be affected by your work, indirectly and directly. So I feel like what you're doing is really powerful, and I feel like you know that, but maybe this can just be confirmation for you that you are going to affect millions of people with your work. So I hope that gives you some kind of confirmation. They also said that you are a part of a truth and transparency movement. I don't know if that's like an official movement or if it's something that is more kind of on the spiritual level. Like there's maybe a consciousness movement towards truth and transparency, but they were making me feel like you're part of that. And I keep getting tingles everywhere as I'm saying this, so I feel that this is really important for you to hear. They also said, they were showing me the High Priestess card for you, and they were saying something about how she's seated between the two pillars. And they kept saying middle view, middle view, middle view. And so I wanted to understand more about that. And basically the feeling that I was getting from the guides about your work is that you can like help people see things from like a central perspective, whereas like a lot of things are very dualistic right now in terms of like the human consciousness. And I feel like you have an ability to kind of see the middle view or to see it from all sides, which is very objective in a way. Like there's like an objectivity to it, but there's this sense of like being able to sort of be like the high priestess. Like what they were making me sense about her was just that she's rooted in between the two pillars. And it's interesting actually, because now that I'm thinking about it, the pillars are black and white. And I know that you mentioned one of your or I did look at your the one link that you sent me. I just went to look to get just like a sense of you. And I think it did say something about the black and white. So I didn't even think about that when that image came through. But yeah, getting the middle view. And I feel like when you get the middle view of something, it's like you're also able to acknowledge the complexity of a situation. Like that's what it's making me think about, because there's never just like a simple answer for anything when you're looking at like humanity's problems or like the consciousness that we have. There's a lot of complexity, and I feel like you have a way of like getting around things that honors the complexity of the situation. And I feel like that's really needed. Again, that's something that's really needed right now. So I hope that some of the stuff in this meditation makes sense to you. And then the last thing that they said, I just loved this. That same kind of like voice that I was hearing, which I will also mention. I don't normally hear voices. I usually get messages through kind of like my third eye. So I'll usually see kind of like a symbol or a vision. Like, remember I said they were showing me the lion on the strength card and then the lion card in the oracle deck. So that's how messages usually come for me, is through vision, like inner vision. But for you, a lot of the messages were coming in through words. And so when I have that happening, because that's not my usual channel, it makes me feel like the person that I'm reading for has some clairaudience. And clairaudience is the ability to hear messages. So that's typically what happens for me when I'm reading for somebody who also has a really strong intuition, is that I'll start getting messages through their preferred channel. So I feel like your preferred channel may be clairaudience, which is like hearing, you might hear a thought kind of like in your mind that is different from your usual train of thought. That's usually a message for you. Also, you're very sensitive to vibration, which would also make sense like why you're really drawn to music. And because music is all vibration. So I feel like you must have that. And I feel like maybe as I'm saying this, you probably already know. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. But if you ever like become more interested in developing yourself psychically, or if you want to connect to your guides, it would probably be maybe like a good channel to start with because you already have like a high degree of connection there, which I don't usually have that with clairaudience. I usually only get symbols and visual things. So okay, Dempsey, that was such a beautiful, I didn't even tell you the last message that I heard. Okay. The last thing that they said was so beautiful. They said you will be taken care of. Keep the faith. So I feel like that's definitely talking about your like financial stuff. And actually like the feeling that I got, because when they were giving me that like message, I was almost seeing someone like a lone person walking out onto kind of like a sun, like not like a sunset, but like a horizon kind of. And it made me feel almost like you're a prophet in a way. And that prophets, like when there's like a purpose behind like what you're doing, the purpose is what protects you. And so I feel like financially and in terms of like your, different practical concerns, I feel like even if you do have challenges in those areas, they will sort of be addressed through synchronistic events. So I feel that even if you did kind of feel like, oh man, I really like messed up, or I like took the wrong choice, or, whatever, I'm taking things in the wrong direction, and now like I have like some kind of issue, I feel like it's going to be solved. Like even if you have that feeling of like, oh shit moment, I feel like that's just temporary before the problem gets fixed. So I don't feel like you're going to kind of completely have like your worst fear come to being. I really don't feel like that, because I feel that you have a strong purpose behind what you're doing. And I just feel like the guides are saying like you're going to be taken care of so that you can complete your mission in this lifetime. So I hope that gives you some confirmation. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with your cards. Okay. Oh, wow. So we've got Justice as your starting point. We've got the Six of Swords as the energy that's coming in. Yeah, that's powerful also, because here we have, it's of the High Priestess, but we have a person seated between two pillars. And we have that sense of the return of that message from the meditation about the middle view. Taking that, again, also, like I even said, it takes an objective approach. Justice is an objective approach. It's also the sign of Libra. So it's ruled by the sign of Libra, I should say. So this is showing that you're really where you need to be right now, Dempsey. This is your card, and it's showing up right in the center. So I feel like you're really right with yourself right now. Like you're acting in accordance with your ethics. You are making progress towards your goals, and you're speaking your truth. So let's just take a breath on that, because that's just a really good confirmation. Beautiful. The Fool in reverse at the root. We've got the Ace of Swords in the past and passing energy. Ace of Wands is what I set the intention for this higher position. This is usually for me the position of guidance from spirit. And so you asked about confirmation of whether or not you're moving down the right path and if you're connected with the right sources. And so seeing this Ace of Wands come up upright, I feel like this is a big green light. This is yes for me. So let's see what else comes up, but I really like this. Next up is the Magician in reverse. Your energy, Three of Swords in reverse. That's really nice. How to build relationships in your industry. That's kind of the setting that I placed for this position. So you have the Emperor there. You've got the Sun in reverse as your guiding card. And you've got the Two of Swords in the direction that things are headed. So let's take a look at this overall. So you've got 5 out of 10 cards are majors. The other 2 more are aces. So you have a lot of big energy going on. When I see that many major arcana cards in Celtic Cross, this is definitely showing me, oh, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, for some reason I thought there was 6 all of a sudden. When I see that many, that's statistically and numerologically significant. When you have a lot of majors, it talks about that you're at a big kind of karmic point in your life where you are fulfilling your life purpose, or you're doing something that's related to your overall kind of spiritual energies in life. So this is a crucial turning point for you. I feel that there's just a lot going on. With Justice in the center, I want to say too that if you're signing any contracts or if you are kind of making long-term legal agreements, I would say go through these with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, I think that you're going to do this anyway, but really, you know, maybe have another lawyer look at it, or just always get a second opinion. Be extra cautious. But I do feel like you're moving in the right direction because you've got the Six of Swords. So this is all about passage. This is about kind of moving gently into your future, moving towards a better place. So because this is a swords card, we can look at the most recent swords card, which this is the 6. So we'd look at the 5. The 5 of Swords is a card of challenge. So it's also a card of separation. So you may have had some kind of separation in the past with either like people that you were working with, or you finished something and maybe it was like a little bit more of a challenging project, or you've had some kind of challenge in your personal life, but there's this sense that you're moving on, like you're moving forward to something better right now. So that's really good. You do have the Ace of Swords in your past and passing energy. So again, this makes me feel like if there was a situation that you had to sort of walk away from or leave behind, or there was a challenge that you had to surmount, I feel that you stayed really true to yourself. The Ace of Swords for me is a card of kind of like a victory through staying true to your own ethics. As an ace, it represents this sort of singular focus. And as a swords card, it talks about truth and wisdom and living like up to sort of like your ideal standards for yourself. So I feel that you've been kind of applying this objective thinking. You've been really taking initiative in your life, and it's leading you into a position of balance and a position of sort of autonomy in a lot of ways with the Justice card here in the center. But you are in transition. So with the Fool in reverse at the root, I do feel that there's possibly some energies, maybe from the deep past or from something that happened where you maybe feel like, I don't know if you feel like you were taken advantage of or something, but with the Fool in reverse, it's like you're looking at something from your past and thinking like, oh, I wish I didn't like agree to that, or I wish I would have known at that time. Like I wish hindsight is always 20/20, right? And so I feel like that's a little bit of this. It's like, man, I was really like naive, or I was just really open and I kind of got taken advantage of, or, just on a business level, I didn't plan enough, and now, it's like you dealt with some kind of, basically, just the shorthand here is, I feel like you had to wisen up about something, and that might have been a little bit of an experience that bruised you as a creative person, or just as a person in some way, and so I feel like that's kind of the energy that's underneath this Justice, because it's saying you've righted yourself now, like you're back in your power seat, you're back in your power position, and you're wiser than before. So it's time to start releasing any of these old ideas about yourself that might have been sort of engendered through this experience of feeling foolish or feeling like you took a misstep or you took a mistake. That's kind of like the feeling that I'm getting is like you are back on track. So it's time to really kind of own that and assimilate that. Now you have the Ace of Wands and the advice from Spirit about the people that you're, the sources that you're working with and the direction that you're taking. For example, you mentioned with some of the big production companies. So that looks really good. The Ace of Wands is all about passionate new beginnings. It's about initiative. These leaves are sprouting on here, so they represent new growth. And for some reason, as I'm looking at this card, I'm seeing something about autumn of this year, which is weird because I usually see spring. And this could be talking about next spring or something like that. But I'm also for some reason picking up something important about autumn. So let's take a look at any clarity cards, because this is a yes. This is a yes, but we're just going to get some more information. Yeah, so we've got the Three of Cups in reverse with the Five of Wands in reverse. So what I'm getting from these cards is that essentially it's you have to trust your instinct and trust kind of your emotional awareness and your intuitive awareness about who is going to be best to work with, because the Five of Wands represents not big disputes, but it can be little things that bug you or whatever, about a person or a situation where you're oh, we just have this disagreement, but it's not going to make or break a project or anything like that, but it is something that's okay, I want to prioritize peace and harmony, and this person's making it a little bit difficult for me to do that. That's kind of the energy of the Five of Wands. And then the Three of Cups is the energy of genuine connections and really working well with people. This is also a card of women as well. So what I feel like this is saying is that if you trust kind of like your gut instinct about who you want to work with, I feel like you're going to avoid more of this, which could have kind of added to this from your past. But so trust your emotional intelligence, trust the people who seem like they are flexible, that seem like they're going to be fun to work with. I feel like that's kind of the message here. So if you're feeling like you're already on track with the people that you're working with, then I feel like this is a big yes. It's saying, if there are little things maybe here and there could be, choose your battles, just kind of keep things as harmonious as possible. No collaboration is going to be kind of like always a walk in the park, because with every creative person and every creative project, we all have these different desires and we all have these different beliefs and convictions about what we're doing. So actually I see this as being, potentially really positive, but all creative collaborations are going to have like some element of, disagreement at some point. So I feel like it's just really about you trusting whoever, you feel within yourself that you can trust your gut. And possibly also if it's women, like if there's like a woman that you're like, I feel like I could really work with her like well, then I think that that is also pointing in a positive direction for that. But it's not only limited to women as well. It's just saying if there is one that comes to mind, that could be a good thing. Okay, let's look at your cards. So we have the Magician in reverse in the next step. This is also linked to your guidance card because the Magician is card 1, the Sun is card 19, and 19 in numerology adds down to 1. So we're going to look at these together because they both came up reversed, and for me they're kind of like connected archetypically. They're connected in terms of the archetypes. So what we're seeing is that the next step is really embracing your creative control here. With the Magician, he's somebody who really likes to do his own work. He's a big picture thinker, so he kind of needs people around him who are going to be maybe a little bit more supportive and maybe take on some of the smaller kind of daily tasks. So he's able to focus on the big vision because the Magician lives on the cutting edge of creation. Like he's literally channeling the energy of spirit into physical manifestation. So this is obviously you. This is like you with your voice in the world. And so I feel like what this is saying with the reversal is like it's time to kind of re-establish that power within yourself. Own your Magician archetype. The Magician is also an archetype of like solution-oriented thinking. So he's kind of like, I'm going to solve whatever issue that's external because I realize that I have the resources to achieve anything that I want. So any problem that's external is actually only like a problem if I don't find the inner resources within myself to fix that problem. So he's kind of just like, like I can do whatever I want, basically, like that type of energy. As long as I change my perspective, as long as I look at things in a different way, I can achieve the state that I want to achieve. I can achieve, something that I want, especially if I'm going to be like flexible about it too. The Magician has that adaptive quality to him. He's kind of a shapeshifter. So there's that aspect of like being flexible. But with the Sun card in reverse too, I feel like this is talking about really being willing to shine. And I feel that you are in a lot of ways, but there could be like almost some things that could be holding you back in certain senses. Like I don't know if it's like self-doubt or if it's questioning if there's value in your work, but I really get that there is. And I feel like both of these cards coming from reverse they're kind of saying like, get this turned around, really own your power, like own your radiance because you have a lot of it. And I feel that there's going to be a higher degree of visibility in terms of what you're doing with that sun. The sun lights things up. So it is about kind of an increase in your visibility as a creator. And I don't know if you have any fears around that, but I feel like it's going to be fine. Like, I really get that you're supported, but I see that there's possibly something like a fear to deal with. The Three of Swords in reverse comes up in your energy, like your unconscious energy. This is actually really nice because with this card in reverse, it talks about kind of like seeing an improvement in your emotional state. So I don't know if you've gone through some difficult times. It could have been related to this Fool energy in reverse. But I feel like this is saying that your emotional landscape is improving. You are getting more emotionally strong and clear within yourself. When I see these cards, like especially this one, the Three of Swords in reverse, it feels to me like the swords are falling out of your heart. So this is confirmation for you that your emotional life is improving and that you are becoming more whole as a person. So I really like to see that. The Emperor comes up in the energy of advice on how to sort of navigate making relationships and valuable connections in your industry. So what I get from this card is basically that that this is about being really like true to the integrity of your own projects. And I know that you already are, but with the Emperor, it's kind of like knowing what you want and knowing what your vision is, and then not really compromising on that. There's something about the Emperor that he's kind of like, you don't try and take advantage of the Emperor, you know, like it just doesn't work. He knows himself and he knows his worth. He knows his integrity. He's aware of kind of like what's owed to him. Like he's very also like the Emperor type of personality will literally build a fortress around himself. And to me, just based on like what you're asking, it feels like this could be legal fortress around what you're doing, knowing that you have everything like copyright and all of that kind of thing under control. Any contracts that you might be signing with production companies, it's like go in like the Emperor, because I feel like you do have something that other people want. And I feel like for you, it's not as much about, like, it's about the money and it's about the like the practical things that you need. Like, we all need to work, so obviously that's really important, and you're taking care of your mother as well, so this is just like really saying you have to focus on the practical stuff because of that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for you, it's also about like the mission, and it's also about the message. And so I think that like if you are in your Emperor kind of self, then you won't be like taken advantage of, or you won't be kind of like disappointed with any agreements that you make when you're in the Emperor position. And again, that shouldn't give you pause about the people that you're working with, because it's just business. You know, you can work with a great like people who have really good intentions, but still agree to some things that you're not crazy about later on. So I feel like this is saying really be mindful of that. Be in your strength, approach things from a perspective and an attitude of strength, because I feel that you're in a good spot. Like, the Emperor is in a really good spot. He's in a high place. So that's really good. So approach it from a place of strength. Negotiate upward for yourself. Now I want to get some more information on this Two of Swords, because it is representing the direction that things are headed. And this is a card that talks a lot about kind of like meditation. It can be about preparing to make a big decision. So she's kind of going inward. What is this Two of Swords for Dempsey? Two of Swords. Lovers, yep. Hermit, and the King of Wands. So again, we have that theme of duality with the Lovers. Lovers is all about choice and being true to ourselves. The Hermit is also kind of has a similar vein of that, but it has this kind of singular focus. So the Hermit is an archetype that kind of removes itself from like the communal space. Like it's the archetype of the shaman. And sort of like the wise teacher who has maybe kind of like crazy wisdom, but it's still wisdom. So what I'm seeing here is kind of be the decider, like around your projects, because your advice was the King of Wands in reverse. Sometimes when we have the King of Wands in reverse, traditionally, you know, and this is, take it with a grain of salt, but traditionally the King of Wands can be a character in your life, a fire sign person maybe, who might have a little bit of manipulation or a little bit of kind of like intense, like they have something that they really want to sort of push through, and you have to kind of stand up to them a little bit. So that could be like a theme here. But what I'm also seeing with the King of Wands is this sense of just a lot of energy. The King of Wands is sort of like really fiery, like just so much fire. So there's a lot of energy around you, and I feel like this card in reverse is saying like have some practices that you can sort of partake in on a daily basis that ground you and that sort of make all of the things that you have going on in your life less stressful or just easier to sort of kind of see from a bigger perspective. So take things, focus on like step-by-step strategies for yourself. If you have like a goal that you need to accomplish, like think about like the 5 big steps that you need to take, and then break each of those down into sort of like manageable chunks of tasks so that you have an idea of like where you're going and how you're managing your energy, because sometimes with this card in reverse, it can represent a danger of burnout. And so when I'm seeing that kind of clarifying the Two of Swords, it's about really like getting in touch with yourself before you make any decisions. And when you do make decisions, make them from a place of strategy and from sort of like overstanding of the situation rather than like understanding. It's like overstanding. You're seeing the whole situation, taking a pause and not feeling like you need to be rushed into a decision. So that's what I'm really picking up for you, Dempsey. I hope that this reading is helpful to you. I really feel like you're in a great spot with your work. I feel like you're supported spiritually. I feel that, you know, you just, you've got some experience behind you too. You have like past successes to look at, and you have maybe past decisions that you would think, okay, maybe I would have done that differently now that I have that experience. So you've got a lot of experiences to draw from, and I just feel like you're really prepared for what you're doing, and I feel that you're very supported by spirit. So congratulations on your work, and I hope that this reading gives you something helpful to think about as you move through the next few months. And but I really feel like you're in a good spot. So thank you so much for asking me to read for you, and please let me know if you have any questions or comments or feedback. I always appreciate hearing back from my clients. And I just hope you have an amazing rest of April, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.